Welcome to Heroes and Droids, your guide to movies and TV shows about superheroes, sci-fi, Disney, and action. From Marvel to DC, from Star Wars to Star Trek, from James Bond to the Fast and the Furious. We will review theatrical films and streaming delights you care about most. And tonight we're reviewing Bullet Train, starring Brad Pitt. Yay! I'm your host, Doc Rotten, and joining me tonight is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. I'm just being the best diesel train a diesel train could be, if you know
yeah. I guess if you're going to do that, that's what you're going to do. You're going to bring Thomas the Tank Engine into it. Oh, well, hey.
Well, yeah. Well, the whole, I was like, yeah, I was really surprised. If you have like this kids show and you're incorporating in a movie where people are getting blown away and cut in half and exploded bloodily, I was kind of surprised, but
I love it. Exploded bloodily. That's
the grammar. I'm sure the grammar police will come after me. The grammar gang.
The grammar gang
with their samurai masks.
The grammar police. All right. Well, we're here to review Bullet Train. And what we're going to do is start off giving you our first impression. That first impression will be spoiler free. Then we're going to dive into a discussion and we will get into all the spoilers, including some of the fun cameos and surprise casting. And then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. Yes, and of course, we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others we have on the site. So check those out. And if you do like them, please hit the subscribe, the like, and share with a friend. It will help us immensely. We will be very thankful. And of course, we'd love to hear your comments. Let's take a look at the card and get into things. Bullet Train from Columbia Pictures and Sony. Available in theaters beginning August 5th, 2022. Directed by David Leitch. Written by Zak Olkewicz and based on a book by Kôtarô Isaka. The cast includes Brad Pitt, Joey King, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Brian Tyree Henry, Andrew Koji, Hiroyuki Sanada, Michael Shannon, Sandra Bullock as Maria. I don't know why I have that there. Bad Bunny, Logan Lerman, Zazie Beetz, and Masaoka. The synopsis: 5 assassins aboard a fast-moving bullet train find out their missions have something in common. And fun and bloody violence ensues, right? All right. Yes, let's start off with our first impressions. Christopher, you are up first.
Yeah, I mean, of course, this is directed by a guy who used to be Brad Pitt's stunt person.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then he's went on, of course, to directed Deadpool 2, and he's done a lot of stunt coordination and that kind of thing. Yeah, this is the best Guy Ritchie film that Guy Ritchie hasn't directed.
Yes, that might be true.
It's very, very, very Guy Ritchie, a little bit of Edgar Wright thrown in for good measure. And it has that sort of sense of humor, a lot of the camera work. It has those kind of things you normally see in some of Guy Ritchie stuff, especially when you meet all these different characters and it gives sort of an intro to each character. So it has that Guy Ritchie feel and it has that kind of sense of humor, a little bit of the Deadpool type humor as well, I'd say. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's fun. And I think the whole movie, I'm like, man, Brad Pitt's like almost 59 years old. And he looks better than all of us put together. It's like that's a handsome man with some amazing hair. But yeah, I found it to be a very fun film. And it does not hold back on the gore. That's for sure. This has got more gore than most Friday the 13th films, I'd say. I mean, there's people getting cut in half and heads exploded and blunt objects going through their heads left and right. People vomiting blood out their eyes and mouths. I mean, there's like so much stuff that's happening in this. But yeah, it's got some really fun characters. I will say, my main gripe is that I just couldn't. There was times I couldn't understand what they were saying with their accents. And maybe that's just me. But there was several moments like I'm not even sure what they just talked about. And I guess mainly with the what is it? Tangerine and lemon. Their British accents were just so thick sometimes. I was like, and maybe I should have put the subtitles on, do the Dave move of putting the subtitles on, but I didn't. But I still enjoyed it, and I love also, we've compared it to other type of filmmakers and stuff, but also it has a Jackie Chan vibe about it when it comes to the action. Because if you watch a lot of, if you thought about a lot of Jackie Chan, it's all about like using objects that are around you, the comedic part of getting hurt. And Brad Pitt gets hurt a lot in this film, and I'd say that he's definitely probably one of the funniest roles Brad Pitt's done, I'd say, in his career, because he's just kind of like, he's just trying. I mean, there's this part where he's just like, I just want to go home. Here, take it, take what you want. I just want to leave. But yeah, and I do like all the different kind of killers that show up, and their own little sort of backgrounds involved with that. There's some really fun cameos by certain characters where you can sort of see how that crossover happened.
Yes, you can.
Two other specific movies, how that crossover happened. One, a movie you might have seen recently. So yeah, I found it to be a very fun film. I will say that it probably could have been a little shorter. And there's moments where the flow gets kind of disrupted because we have all these sort of like flashbacks and flash intros to other characters. But the action's great. There's some, the whole, without giving anything away, the whole end thing was like, oh crap, this is crazy. It's got some really good special effects. It's got some icons from sort of like action movies from old.
Yes, it does.
And overall, I found it to be very entertaining, very fun. I do kind of, there's a couple of, I will call them twists, where I didn't see what was coming, that I kind of enjoyed. And I do like how the movie sort of plays around with the whole thing's about like Brad Pitt thinking he's bad luck and fate and that kind of stuff, and how many times when we see films, oh, that's kind of convenient, this happened or whatever, but it's fun how they work it within the realm of how the film works itself out, especially towards the end. But yeah, I found Bullet Train. I somebody asked online what I thought about it. I think it might have been Bill Gabriel, and I was like, it's a bloody fun ride.
Bloody fun ride. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I had a freaking blast with this movie. I was a little, I don't know. At first, I wasn't really on board, but by the time the second act got fully into it and everybody's on the train and everything's happening, man, I was in for it, and I love the cast of characters. I mean, even though this is, even after seeing it, and it is still a Brad Pitt film, but it is a large cast. It is, it's not just him. And the rest of the cast, it's an ensemble cast. The rest of the cast take up a lot of screen time, and I might say that in many scenes, Tangerine and Lemon steal the show. I really enjoyed Aaron Taylor Johnson, and let me make sure I get his name right. Brian Tyree Henry, the guys with 3 names. They were fantastic, and their just their chemistry and their charisma was great. I just love them. The whole scenario is like, he's trying to get off the train, and there's stops. There's like so many stops, but I like how they handle him. How he can't get off the train. He tries, but something happens every time the door opens. Something happens, and I really like how that handled. There was a few casting surprises that were given away in the trailers that I wish I hadn't known until I saw the film. And you'll know what I'm talking about because you saw the trailers. If you didn't see the trailers, you'll be very surprised. And then there, like Christopher said, there's a couple of cameos in here I had no idea were coming, and they were really well done. So this film was so much fun. It's great to see. It was basically an original film, even though it's based on a book. It's still an original film, and it's not an IP, it's not a sequel, and it is a blast. It is such a blast, and yeah, loved it. So let's get into our talk. Let's get into the spoilers. Do we want to jump straight into the cameos? Because I love what you did. You brought up that this movie is tied to two other movies.
Where certain actors had crossover. Yep. So, or actually where Brad Pitt had crossover.
Right. So I guess the first one we should say is Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2, because if you remember, Brad Pitt had a role as the invisible guy who gets electrocuted, and you finally see it's Brad Pitt.
Yes.
So there's a moment where he basically traded places with a killer guy who we find out later in the movie is Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't actually, us revealing that it doesn't really give anything majorly away plot wise, other than just like Ryan Reynolds. They just probably got him in front of his green screen for like a minute.
Yes, it was
5 seconds, and he doesn't really. There's basically just that one moment where you see him, and this is one of the great things of seeing this film in a theater, where everybody laughs.
Oh my
God. Because so that was a fun moment to see sort of his because Brad Pitt did that. Because Brad Pitt mentioned that, I think he's mentioned that it was like one of the easiest things he's ever done was that.
I know,
and
of course Ossie Beats was in the film as well.
Yes, she was in that as well. So
yep. And then the other film is one many people on here might not think of. What is that?
It's The Lost City, which was the movie recently that starred. Brad Pitt had a role in it. He was sort of like the smaller role in it. But oh crap, what was the other?
Sandra Bullock.
Bullock, and what the hell's the other guy's name for Magic Mike?
Oh, you're gonna make me totally forget.
My brain's not working.
I know. Give me a hot second here. Channing Tatum.
Who really has some really funny lines where he thinks that the guy's asking to to have sex or something. And I meant to look. I'd love to see the movie again, but I think the book he's reading is her book from that movie.
Oh, is it? Oh my gosh, that would be so.
Because it looks like it's a romance book, but I only saw it for a brief second, so I didn't. But yeah, they so it's kind of cool that they both, had a small part in this film, because he showed up and he was sort of like that fun part in the other film, which I kind of wish they hadn't revealed him in the trailers for Lost City. Although I haven't seen Lost City yet, because it would have been nice to sort of see the film and he pop up like, oh my God, Brad Pitt's in this.
Yes.
So yeah, those are some sort of fun cameos, and of course we get the villain, which I completely forgot who the villain was, and the whole movie I was
the White Death is the character's name.
The White Death, and I really thought, I was like, did they get Keanu Reeves in this film?
The hair made me think that, right?
Well, the hair, yeah, and they never showed his face, so the whole time I'm like, well, this guy's known for working on the John Wick film, so could it be? But that's fine. But yeah, you do have all these different actors and stuff that have a lot of fun, with these individual roles. I feel like Did you ever watch the show what was the name of it? Is it Heroes?
Yes, Heroes. Masaoka, yes.
Was that the ticket taker? Was that the guy from Heroes?
Yes, yes. And he was also the guy with the snake at the in the flashbacks to the snake getting stolen.
Was that him?
That was him too. Yeah, he played two characters. But yes, it was the guy from Heroes. Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, but yeah, I mean, there's we have those cameos in this which sort of add to that. And I forgot to mention earlier, but this also has a little bit of a Tarantino vibe when it comes to the dialogue and stuff, because the whole diatribe about Thomas the Tank Engine stuff and
that's
feels very Tarantino-esque. That sort of weird pop culture conversation you have in the midst of possibly killing someone or kidnapping someone. So that, I mean, that feels right in the midst of something Tarantino. This feels like a more comedic Tarantino type film as well.
It does, and it also has a similar structure to Kill Bill, where it introduces the characters, because we get, Ladybug and Tangerine and Lemon, and then we get the Elder at the end, right? So, it has that.
I think that's what kind of messes up the flow at times, because it's almost like these individual chapters, because there's like, okay, we find out like there's this killer on the train, and then we flash and we get the whole backstory on the killer, and then we come back, and it's like, oh, we get the backstory and how this happened, and we come back, and then you find out like, he interweaves in those individual stories as well. So it is kind of interesting, but at the same time, it does kind of throw you off and take you off track.
It does. It took me a while to get used to it. But once I did, I started looking forward to them. And of course they do all pay off. They do all pay off at the end. There is a reason why we're getting these particular stories. And that's just, of course it's written by a master book writer, so the author. So it certainly is structured well in that regard. And I think it probably reads better than it plays on screen. You know what I mean?
Well, I definitely want to read the book. I didn't realize this is based on a book, and I heard some interviews, and I think what's his name, the grandfather, the guy who played the grandfather,
Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yeah, he mentioned he'd read the book, and I was like, what? There's a book? But yeah, I will say Brian Tyree Henry has some of the funniest lines, because there's like one part he tells Brad Pitt, he's like every white homeless guy I've ever seen, and there's another part where he's like, oh, white girl tears. Well, I mean, there's just so many really funny moments that really work really well. But I mean, there is like so many things, if you pay attention to what's happening, that it all like, oh, okay, that kind of, it really all comes together by the end. It's like all those individual things you sort of you sew into this final fabric that looks even more amazing. You didn't really see, you just see the individual pieces being created. Even when it comes to like a moment that happens towards the end that we get sort of after a little bit of credits, we get to see
how that happened. Yes,
as well.
Yes,
I won't give it away because it just happens at the very end, but it works really well. But yeah, I will say it's like there is a lot of action. There's a lot of CGI type stuff as well, but it works for the different segments. Yep. And you get so many. I mean, I do like it when you have all these bad guys that sort of like show up visually in different ways. Mm-hmm. You have was it Zazie Beetz? Is that her name?
Zazie Beetz, yes, the Hornet.
Yeah, when she shows, when you find out, well, I guess I'm giving some away, but.
Well, there's spoilers, so
yeah. Well, she's wearing like the one thing they did make up, I guess I hope they made up, is this sort of Japanese cartoon character, and she's dressed as this big sort of cartoon character suit, and there's some sort of fun stuff, and also again how that suit sure shows up later on as well, which is one of my favorite parts of the film.
Yeah, I know that at the end. Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. I think Brad Pitt is basically channeling Jackie Chan so much. you know, because he's got that sort of like, you know, he's always like, what's happening here? I don't want to fight, you know, or you know, he's just making observations.
Definitely. And of course, we haven't talked about Joey King much. She plays a character named Prince, but she's just full of surprises, and she's full of plot twists. And
I hate her character though.
The character's annoying, but at the same time, it's kind of fun. It certainly, she set up a lot of things, you know, that would happen throughout the film, even though I don't think she meant to do that. She was trying to do something else. But of course, you know, we get a lot of what do you call it? Chekhov's guns. This film is full of them.
There's literally
one literally.
There's literally a Chekhov's gun.
Yes.
And wait a minute, is Chekhov Russian?
It sounds like it to me.
Well, I will say, like, yeah, she's definitely one of the bigger manipulators throughout the whole movie. Although I will say, I kind of saw her connection later.
Oh yeah.
I saw that coming a mile away.
I was told I didn't
miles away. I saw it coming tracks away.
I didn't even think of it. Didn't even think of it. I was
did
like,
you?
okay.
Yeah, I was.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I think she's a fun character because she's the one that sort of like, you know, she gets herself out of it because she's like, oh, I'm the cute little girl in the, you know, the little, you know, school skirt or whatever, you know, and with the backpack, and he kidnapped me, you know. So she kept pulling that kind of maneuver that you could easily see in these situations that keep tricking people, and causing people to get killed because of it.
Yeah. There's a Chekhov water bottle. There's a Chekhov. There's all kinds of Chekhov stuff.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I think the main thing is this is fun. Okay. It doesn't take itself too seriously. Nope. It's definitely visually interesting. And I mean, there's literally, it kind of reminded me of Everything Everywhere All at Once, because there's one part where we basically follow the backstory of the water bottle, which I think
that's true. We do.
Oh my gosh. It's really, and it adds so much to it. Cause even I was like, why are we following the water bottle? Okay. And so that added so much, you know, it added to the film. You know, it's not one of those things you can take it away, but but also I just found that to be a very funny bit, you know, throughout all the little bits at this.
I mean, you get all kinds of fights. You get fist fights, gun fights, and you get sword fights. And those sword fights are amazing. You get Hiroyuki Sanada. I'm probably mispronouncing the name, and I've been doing it forever, but yes, we want to see him with a sword. We get to see him with a sword, and it is so satisfying. Well, it is so satisfying.
And to be totally honest, I mean, on paper, having so many fights in a confined area doesn't sound like a good thing, you know. Although, and I think I rented our pal Cardulo, and I was like, the only thing is, like, how are they getting away just breaking stuff and doing all this sort of destruction on this train and nobody's seeing it? It's like, don't they have like cameras? I mean, this is like some high-tech bullet train in Japan. Wouldn't people, you know, there are no people really working? I mean, I guess they kind of spelled out later, because supposedly the guy without giving too much away, bought tickets. So there's less people on it, but it still doesn't make sense why there's parts of the train where there's nobody there. Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. So they can get away with like stabbing people and killing people, or beating the shit out of people, or and it is funny because, you know, the whole time there's that briefcase, which is the, you know, like, I guess the Pulp Fiction element of it as well, I guess. But the briefcase is actually a real briefcase. I saw an ad for it. Nice.
Nice.
Because I was like, that's a cool looking briefcase.
Yeah, and they kind of have a second one, which is kind of funny. And he goes, spins there's a great gag. There's a great sight gag, and it totally pays off. And this movie I laughed, I smiled, I had a great time. It is violent, it's hilarious, it's gory. It is exactly what, you know, it's made for adults, and it's incredibly rewarding in that way. You know, when you're done with it, you're like, yeah, that was fun.
I mean, there's literally, I mean, you know, there's There's also parts where just the gore is so over the top that you sometimes have to laugh about it. I mean, there's a part where a guy gets cut in half on top of the train. I was like, holy crap.
Oh, that was good. But that was fantastic.
Oh, no, it was fantastic. I was like, oh, God. That's because you just see half of them fly away.
Yeah, I want to see more films like this. I had a good time. I had a great time. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. I'm sure we won't have a hard time with that, but go ahead, Christopher. Start us off.
Maybe the sequel will be Bullet Plane.
Bullet Plane.
All these damn killers on a damn train. Okay. That was horrible. I enjoyed this film. You know, it's not rocket science. It doesn't reinvent the train wheel. It does a really good job of sort of like just having fun, having a sense of fun about everything, both visually and dialogue wise, and also just the action. I mean, the action is definitely, although it may be brutal at times, at the same time, but there's really some really fun choreography between people.
Extraordinarily.
You know, whether fighting and even like talking while they're fighting. So, and to do that in such a confined area, I think really works. And just how also just the manipulation that happens throughout, where they're trying to figure out ways to do this or do that, or trick these people or trick those people. And you have the other villains as well. And also just the, you know, and as much as it kind of throws you off in the very beginning with the flashbacks and intros and that kind of stuff, you know, the visuals of it are so cool. It's like, oh, you know, it sort of just adds more to the sort of like the visual aesthetic of it. And also sometimes, you know, punches well the gags that are happening throughout.
Yes.
And it definitely ends in a very sort of spectacular, crazy, over the top, you know, action scenario. I'll just say that much. But yeah, it's got some really great actors in it. It definitely has that sort of that wacky Guy Ritchie feel, which I love in general. So this sort of amps it up. This is like Guy Ritchie on energy drink, with a little bit of Tarantino and a little bit of Jackie Chan.
Edgar Wright too. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of Edgar Wright as well, because a lot of the crazy movement of the camera and stuff, where sometimes they have to incorporate CGI to sort of make that, because there's parts where like trains are getting cut into and the camera's like moving all through it and stuff. But yeah, I thought it was a very fun film. You know, I had a few, like I mentioned earlier, I had a little parts of it where the dialogue I couldn't understand. Just in the very beginning, I think, but it got better as it went along. But yeah, I'll give this, you know, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. I think it's a competent, fun, you know, energetic film that's visually interesting. I think Brad Pitt, I'd love to see Brad Pitt doing more of these type of action sort of fun films. And you know, I'd love to see him, like, again, another scenario where he's having to fight off killers coming after him, you know. As for favorite scene, I don't know. I mean, you could pick a lot of different scenes.
Yes, you can.
But I don't know. The one that kind of cracked me up and I really enjoyed the most is when the train derails and Brad Pitt's character
is flying slow motion.
And you just see him like, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just found that to be very sort of funny, you know, with crap flying past him and stuff, because he really gets the crap beat out of him through this whole film, you know. And that's what I love about it. This is some indestructible superhero action guy. This guy is spitting blood and probably has internal bleeding and whatever. But yeah, that's something, the visual of the camera following him in slow motion as this train's being ripped apart and stuff's falling, and then him again, we have the callback of the goofy cartoon character outfit that he uses as sort of a place to sort of crash into. So I don't know. I just found that was one of the most fun parts for me.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. Yeah, you know, I didn't think about Jackie Chan, but this is kind of like a train full of Jackie Chans all fighting
Yeah.
because they're all yeah. It does have that slapstick fighting humor to it, and but you know, at the same time, there is a heart at a couple moments in here, especially when it comes to Tangerine and Lemon, that you know are actually heartfelt, and you do feel them. And I was surprised by that because those characters, Tangerine and Lemon, you get to know them so well in this, and their connection. They're brothers, and we get to see them as kids being brothers, which is really, that's when I bought in on the flashbacks, is when we started seeing Tangerine and Lemon as kids. I said, okay, I'm in. Let's see more of this. For me, Tangerine Lemon stole the whole movie. And if we're going to see another one, I want to see Tangerine and Lemon film, more of them, because they were absolutely a blast. But definitely this style, it's it is. It's just good cinema. Good. It's you know, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly well done, and it succeeds in what I wanted out of it. Succeeds in the action, succeeds in the gore, succeeds in the comedy, and I had a terrific time. I can't wait. I want to see this again. So in that respect, it's a very successful film, and Brad Pitt, you know, is Brad Pitt. Yes, of course. I love the cameos. I love the casting. I love the cinematography. I love the choreography, but the fights are just kind of mind-blowingly amazing. It's really good. This is really good stuff. I give it a 4 as well. And favorite scene. What am I going to say is my favorite scene? There's a whole bunch. I mean, but for some reason I had a lot of fun with the character Wolf when he comes on the train, and he's fighting Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt has no idea who he is. He's like, he just says, "I don't know you," and they're just fighting, and then of course the scene goes on, and Brad Pitt's character Ladybug wins, and then the Wolf character is in the rest of the movie as a dead body slumped in a chair, and every time he comes on screen, it is hilarious. And then at some point, he gets a passenger, a dead body passenger, to go with him, and it's perfect. I mean, that's the kind of gags and humor that I enjoy. There's plenty of that in here, with almost every character has kind of that send up, and yeah, there's a lot that I could jump in and say this was fun, but I enjoyed this movie, and I think I'm actually I'm kind of, I wish I don't know how they would sell it better, but it seems to me like this should do better than the 30 million it did over the weekend. I mean, it's still number one, and it still did a lot of buck, right? But to me it feels like it should do better.
Well, you never can understand how things work out, you know. I guess there are a lot of people have gone back to school too.
That's true.
So I don't know if that affects it as well. But yeah, I mean, although I you talk about the dead bodies, it's just sort of a Weekend at Bernie's type.
There is, isn't it? There is. Oh my gosh, there is.
Yeah, because they use the phrase of some, I guess they're British puppets from back in the day or whatever, like do the whole puppet thing or whatever.
Yes,
and I was
yes.
like, what is it? And like, oh, then you see what they're doing. So yeah, there's just this film is it's over the top. Just know going into it, this is not, this is like
not Academy Award
a more comedic
drama.
John Wick.
Yeah.
It's over the top fun, crazy fun.
Yeah, has a good time with it. All right, there you go. That's our review of Bullet Train. Check it out. Let us know what you think down below. Oh, and then come back and join us again. We're going to be covering some fun movies and TV shows in the coming month. I'm looking forward to She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. It's going to be fun, for sure.
Very for sure, yeah.
All right. Christopher, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
No problem.
Let's say goodnight.
Good night.